Hi, welcome to Gabbing with Girlfriends. And today, my girlfriend is my old friend, old, not literally an age, but my friend with a lot of longevity there is Danny Zelisko. Here he is from Phoenix. Hi, Danny.
Hey, Gloria, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
When do you think the last time we saw each other was? Don't do it in years, but tell me where we
I
were.
I bet I bet it was at I think we did a dinner with Wendy.
We did, and then we were both staying at that hotel in Ojai.
Correct.
That was a
For
hundred years
for that
ago.
for that party with Dave Grohl. Remember
Oh, is that what it
Came,
was?
Dave
Yeah,
Grohl came and cooked.
yeah. Is that when it was? Oh, then
That's
it
when
wasn't
Ojai
that long
was.
ago. That wasn't that long ago.
No, but it was pre-COVID.
Well, yeah, it was pre-COVID. Have you been back to Ojai since COVID?
Negative.
No, negative here too.
I love it there though. I'd love to go
Yeah, me
back.
too. Me
She should
too.
have another party at that little place of hers.
Well, she should. We'll have to tell her.
All right.
Do you know I don't live in Los Angeles anymore?
No, where are you?
In between Vegas and Park City.
Oh, when did
Isn't that
that
weird?
happen?
It just happened. Terry couldn't stand it in LA anymore. He just had to get out. And so we were really going to Park City. And at the time, we had a little place in Park City. And then at the time, we also had 5 dogs. So we were driving from LA to Park City, which is 11 hours. So we decided to get a place in Vegas kind of as a place to stop off. And this was working really well for us. So we sold our house in LA and then got a bigger house in Park City. And here we are.
So,
So
are you actually in Utah?
I'm actually not in Utah today, but yes,
But that's where the house is.
yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
and Vegas, but yeah, we love mountain life, and neither of us are skiers, and neither of us ever thought we'd want to be someplace where we're cold, and but we love it. We really love it a lot.
Have you been through a winter yet there?
Yes, yes, we try really hard to not be there for too long of a period of time during the winter. But we love it there in December and January in the winter because December and January, I'm saying this to you who lives in Arizona, but December and January are meant to be cold and white. And yeah, we love it. And the person that lives kind of behind us, they mainly live in Phoenix too, and this is a second home for them in Utah. So but they don't stay. It's really funny. During the summer, they go to Utah, and during the winter, they go back to Phoenix.
Yeah. Well, starting here in mid-September, mid-September till about Memorial Day, and the request lines are open. Um, in this time of year till Memorial Day is my favorite time of year here, and then June, July, August, I try to get out of Phoenix. I don't really mind it that bad. I've been here 50 years plus, but I've managed over the years. Like one of my biggest goals was to figure out how to get out of here in June, July, and August, at least some of the time. So I would say I'm here a half to maybe to a third in Phoenix, and otherwise we go anywhere we want, and just get out of here.
Well, that's the way to do it. That's the
Yeah,
way you survive desert heat. That's for
yeah.
sure. And do you still book shows in Vegas or no?
Oh yeah. I'm doing right now. We've got a residency I'm doing with Live Nation with Jackson Brown at the Venetian in
Oh, that's
October,
cool. That's cool.
and starting at the end of October, there's a 14 show residency with Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons at Westgate from the end of October till the end of next October.
No way.
He's calling this the final encores.
That's cute.
Uh,
Where's Westgate?
Westgate used to be the International
Ah,
Hilton International, and that's where Elvis played for all those years when he did all those Vegas
right, right.
shows. And Barry Manilow's about to break his record for the amount of shows performed in this theater. It's a great theater, um, about 16, 1800. And then the other place I go to there and do shows a lot is the Smith Center, which is a beautiful
Oh, yes, I've heard that's
performing
gorgeous.
arts center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A
So
neighbor of mine goes there a lot.
we just had Gladys Knight there, and I've had some really, really other great shows there. Frankie's played there, Jethro Tull, Alan Parsons, just a whole bunch of different
Oh, yeah,
bands.
I've got to go there. We haven't been.
It's a gorgeous place. Let me know. I'm good with the hall manager, and if he saw this, he'd say, "Okay, since it's you." Yeah.
Oh,
But
cool.
yeah, they're
Good to
great.
know.
And
Okay.
so those are the places that I'm in now. I used to do a lot more in Vegas. In fact, I used to do a lot more everywhere before the consolidation of all the promoters took place some years back. And now there's one or two companies that are buying 90% of the best talent out there. So it makes it difficult unless you to book shows unless you're with them.
Yeah.
So I get what I get. I do what I do. I'm having fun.
Perfect. I think we're at the stage in our life where that's what it's all about, right? If it's not fun, don't do it.
It's somewhere in the last 10 or 15 years, it really came to me that I made some really fantastic friendships throughout the last. It's 50 years since my first show next year, and I mean everybody's got this 50 thing going on. And I guess that's a good thing if we're here to claim
Absolutely.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I like it. I feel good about it. I wish I could remember some of those pivotal years, and they're better because it's just so much information. And and let's face it, in the earlier part of this, we were all high, and it's hard to remember some of the great stuff. But I've been
That's
going
not even
over
a high thing. I think it's become an age thing now where it's, I
Well,
don't even know what I had for lunch yesterday.
well, definitely forget about the short term. But I've had a really a good time with that, and I am getting older. It doesn't feel so much like it, but that driver's license don't lie. And it blows my mind. I mean, I was watching. I see people who are my age, and I don't know if it's just me thinking.
No,
I mean,
no, it's not just you. I know what you're going to say.
So many people that I know that are in their 60s and in their 70s look like they're in their 80s or 90s.
Yes. No. I'll see people that I knew from, well, not high school, but from years ago.
Yeah,
and
from
I'm
high
like,
school.
oh
Even
my,
I went to my 50th.
oh,
I
you
mean, it was
did?
like I thought I was visiting with all the kids I went to school with parents.
Yeah. No, that's me. I look at people, I'm like, oh my God, they didn't age very well, or do I look
think
that
it's
age? Or I never
think
think I
it's
do. I don't think I do.
I think it's the rock music that kept us on the younger side. I
Or that
think
made us crazy enough that we think we don't look like them.
well, it might be, but I've always been telling my mom was always telling me looks weren't everything my whole life anyway. So
There
I
you
figured
go.
out later what she meant by that.
There you go. Oh, do you golf?
Yeah.
Because isn't that a prerequisite to living in Phoenix?
Well, I didn't play before I moved here, put it that way. So I guess you're right. I don't play as often as I used to. I had a stretch there where I was going out a few times a week. I live on a golf course. And here's a funny one. When I moved in here in the late 90s, I'd always played at this golf course with Jess Nicks, who's Stevie Nicks' dad. And I met him because I tried to book her way back when it was Buckingham Nicks before Fleetwood Mac.
Oh my gosh.
And I had to go through him to book his daughter.
Was she underage?
No, but that was the contact. They didn't have a manager. They didn't have an agent. So I called Jess, and we became fast friends. And started doing shows with him, and we became very, very involved. And he took me to this golf course called the Paradise Valley Golf Course. And I ended up moving onto the golf course, a house on the golf course in the 90s, and he put me up for a membership, and they turned me down.
No
And
way.
yeah, it was the only time he'd ever sponsored somebody to join the club. And I guess, the people there are part of the John Birch Society or something, and they're very right. And I brought over Tommy Lee one day to golf, and I brought over Dave Mustaine one day to golf, and I brought Randy Johnson, the pitcher. And all three of them, I guess, looked at the time in the late 90s, looked very, very threatening to these people at the golf club, because they gave me an associate membership so they could check me out. And I guess there was a couple people didn't like the fact that I brought these rock stars there. Now, if I brought them there today, they'd be laughing
Totally
it
different
up.
story. Yeah.
But
Totally
in the
different
late
times.
90s, rock stars weren't as approved on by society as they
Yeah.
are today. Now,
Yeah, that was a scary
everybody goes
time.
to concerts.
Yeah.
Everybody goes to shows. Everybody's going to stadium shows, for Christ's sake. And then there was a time there with these same groups, you couldn't draw 5,000 people. It had the lulls and the valleys and the peaks and all that stuff. But anyway, the same day that I got turned down, so did Jason Kidd, who played for the Suns, black guy, Alice Cooper, long hair, Randy Johnson, long hair. All four of us were dismissed at once. And I've never either had the nerve or the balls to go back and try again, because it's a gorgeous course and they make one of the greatest cheeseburgers on the planet. So for that alone, it's worth paying whatever ridiculous amount of money it is. But anyway, I do love to play, though. I got to play golf in Scotland at St. Andrews
Oh,
in the
wow.
summer.
Wow, that's
And
cool.
I got to play Muirfield, which was like
Where's that?
a dream for any golfer, much less if you're a serious one.
That's Scotland as well.
It was thrilling to be able to do that.
Is that in Scotland as well?
Yeah. Yeah, they're both in the same kind of neighborhood. I mean, to be sitting in these rooms where the foundation of golf was built was, I love history, the castles and all that stuff. But to be able to do that with golf was really a thrill.
Oh, that's exciting. Very exciting. So going back through the years, just between us, who is your favorite agent to have worked with, and who is one of your least favorites?
Agents?
Uh-huh.
Wow. There was a guy who was with Premier and with ATI who I thought was about the meanest guy, no personality. Bill
So
Elson.
you didn't like him personally. It's not that he was a hard deal maker. You just didn't like him.
No, he was an asshole. No, complete. He wasn't a good guy. He one time told me I was booking some NXS dates, and I hardly ever had to talk to him because he had agents under him that he supervised.
Right.
So there's great agents at this place. Tim McGrath, Peter Russo, Wally Meyerowitz, Ronnie Cohen. There were just great people at both agencies. Later on in life, I became great friends with Barbara Skydell and Frank Barcelona, who I love dearly. And sadly, we didn't get to be really good friends towards the end of their lives. But it was better than not doing it. And they were pretty much out of the business, so they were even more fun to hang out with then.
Oh, that's fun.
But Bill liked to make my life difficult. I don't even know if he's alive anymore, but he pretty much just he was like all of a sudden out of the business. And it was, for me professionally, it wasn't a moment too soon, because he seemed. I don't think it was just me. I think he hated everybody. It was really weird, but anyway, I usually won't go and say that, but just since it's us.
How I think everybody has a favorite, and everybody has a um, just in anything, in any kind of dealings with
Oh,
people you have
no,
all the time.
no question. And some people
And there's
just
always an asshole, always, whatever the job is.
there's people, that I deal with today. Almost every one of them are great. There's still a couple of pills, which I'm not going to mention right now, but
Rika, I know you're dying to say Rika must be the worst to deal with. I know
what's
you're
that?
dying to say, I think you're probably dying to say that Rika is the worst to deal with. And I'm just
Rika.
teasing. No,
No, I love
I
Rika.
know you do. I do too.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have to deal with each other very much, and I wish we did.
Me too.
She would be a gas to be with. But there's a lot of really nice people out there. I mean, it's such an old profession. It's hard to believe that somebody hasn't come along and streamlined it yet, like everything else, and taken the people out of it, which so many jobs are eliminated because of mechanics and internets and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's a different world as far as a lot of that stuff goes. But I find that doing shows, it still gives me the opportunity to travel and deal with people that I've made friends with over the last 50 years or whatever.
Mhm.
And let's face it, as long as they keep working, I'm never going to be able to sit down at a lake and hang out and sit on a lawn chair with them. We're going to have to go do shows. And
Yes,
so many of my guys, they're between 60 and 90. A couple of them are over 90. And
please.
the fact that these guys still have it together so that they can travel, which is the hardest thing to do, but they're either on private planes or they're in a nice comfort bus.
Yeah.
They're not roughing it out there at this age as much, but it's. I went out with John Lodge from the Moody Blues this summer, just for a few weeks, and it beat the hell out of me. The unpacking and the packing and the haul and the airports and the food and after the show. I love doing all that stuff, but day after day after day, I mean, how people do 30-day tours, much less a year-long tour like that, like all the bands that I've worked with have done at one time or more than another, it is incredibly taxing.
Okay, well, the only way to really get around that is, I mean, thank goodness for residencies, right? Because the older artists can do that easily.
Yeah,
And then there's even young artists like Adele that comes into Vegas and she does for weekends at a time, and that's it. She's happy. She's playing to everybody from all over the world, and she's in there for 3 days, 2 days, whatever it is, and out again, in,
yeah.
out, but so easy. And, or somebody like Taylor Swift, who goes into a stadium for 4 nights. That's a whole nother, that's just a mind boggle.
It's
But
mind boggling.
having gone to see her twice and finding her so fascinating and so talented and doing 40 songs or whatever it is, doing a 3.5 hour concert, and what it seems to have done is now you see people like Beyonce or whoever else going out, and now they're doing 1,000 songs in their set. It's like, where are these people? And I know they're younger, but where are these people getting the energy from? This is all brand new that people do
Yeah.
those kind of. What is that?
I think it's the competition from the others. Um, I mean, because you're talking about names that are at the very top of the field currently, and Beyonce's been there for a while, so is Taylor, and
Yeah, that is.
it's amazing the amount of people that'll come see him because for years, I mean, for instance, we were doing Lollapalooza in the 90s when it first came out. It was never that huge of a deal, what it became.
Oh yeah, you have to tell your Lollapalooza the name story too.
Okay.
But go on, go on.
But like same with a lot of the groups that I grew up with that I was doing in the 70s and 80s and 90s. It's odd how the tastes and the way people change, and you don't know it, and you're the promoter, and you better know it, uh, about how to anticipate how many people are going to show up at any given time. But I mean, I had times where I had really poor showings with Kiss. They fell off the face of the earth for a while. They went and tried to do the thing without the makeup, which didn't work. I loved it, by the way, but it didn't work, and they went back. It was kind of like when Coke changed the color of their can. It did not work. They tried to upgrade on a classic.
Well, and their flavor. They did change for a bit.
They did, and it was awful. Um, it's an incredible thing. When people get used to something a certain way, they don't take into account that the band might be getting bored with doing the same thing all the time. But the thing is, that's what they sold them on, and they got them that lightning in a bottle, and people want that same lightning all the time. It's a very, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah.
But I mean, how
Very
many
true.
people? How many people that we heard in the 60s or 70s or 80s, forget about age, just to be able to stay relevant, and where people still desired to see them. I mean, I did more shows with John Prine than any other artist in the world. We had the greatest time together. We traveled together. We did shows together starting in the late 70s and all the way up until he died a couple of years ago. And I just loved being with him. I loved going out with him. I loved everything about him. And that's why I tried to do as many shows. It didn't matter where. I would go anywhere I could. There's a lot of bands that I feel the same way, like that about, so that I have to guard myself from just saying yes to anything that somebody says because I want to do it so bad. And it's one
Well,
of
it's in
those
your
things.
blood. It's in your blood, and a lot of
It
people
is, and
don't understand that.
I love that it is. I really do. I'm so fortunate, to have followed one foot after another that led me to here, and I'm very happy about that. But I still, I get a real here. I mean, listen to these names. This is from the other night. I go on before every show and I do show announcements to let people know what's coming. I mean, what better audience is there to talk about concerts, right?
Of course.
So listen to this list. This was all right. It started with Buddy Guy, Blue Oyster Cult and Head East, former openers for Black Sabbath, Samantha Fish, Pat Benatar, Neil Giraldo with John Waite, George Lopez, celebrating David Bowie with Adrian Belew and Peter Murphy, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, The Musical Box doing Genesis, Gladys Knight, Alice Cooper, Rick Springfield, and the Black Moods. That's between now and the end of the year, and they're great names, great shows. They're not Metallica. Used to do them, can't get them anymore. Guns N' Roses, they canceled on me for a sold out show because Axel couldn't make it, but I don't get to do them anymore. Beyonce came, I used to do her. Never did a Taylor Swift. I mean, Louis Messina is the one that really knocked it out of the park of all of us promoters.
No kidding.
I mean,
Was he lucky or was it? I mean, I don't think. No, I think he's very clever, and I think he's a good guy. But there's
I don't think
there.
luck had really anything to do with it. He's got a great personality. He's a real music guy. He's a smart business guy. He's got great people around him to make him look even better. But he made these incredible friendships with Ed Sheeran and Chesney and George Strait. his George Strait shows are the most fun to go and hang at. You never know. He had me here in Phoenix with Don Mattingly, the baseball star from the Yankees, and this general. And here this general's asking for my phone number. We're exchanging numbers, and we still stay in touch. It's ridiculous. But, it's about being around George Strait. I mean, George is one of the greatest. But he and there's other people that he has that he did great things in rock. He had the Monsters of Rock or something
Right.
years
And
ago.
I mean, the loyalty there, the fact that, everybody stuck with him too, because as we all know, with all due respect to musicians, they don't tend to be the most loyal people in the world.
No, it's a very difficult business to go through, and very difficult to get in, and then you get there and you go, what the hell am I doing here? It's not an easy ride, and especially now. I frankly I'm dealing with advanced age artists and audiences coming out of COVID, and it's there's a lot of different things in play that we didn't have in play even 10 years ago. Because I mean, it's one thing to be 50, it's another to be 60. It's one thing to be 60, it's another to be 70, and so on. And as much as those same people are in there behind those eyes, a lot of them ain't moving the same way that they used to, or able to, or wanting to, or they just plain don't want to or need to. And they go, enough, see ya. And here's me going, excuse me, when you had your first platinum record, didn't you sign something saying you'll tour as long as I'm around? And I found the answer was no. But it's great. I mean, we've all somehow uh, along the way managed to grow up together, whether we were close at one point or not, or are now and not. It's still a very exciting Cuisinart to get poured into every day. We have fun.
I think, I mean, I think it seems like busier than ever. I think after the pandemic and people started, realizing that they can start working again, it seems like everybody went out. And, I know it still takes a while to recover, but I think it's getting there, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the business is back like crazy.
Yeah,
The
to me, it seems busier than ever, or as busy
the
as ever.
the thing I think is the toughest though is that as people get older and they see what other people make and what other people are charging for tickets and the buildings they're playing in and so forth, everybody's always checking what's going on in everybody else's backyard. And everybody desires to be at the top of the heap. No blame there, no problem there.
Yeah, yeah.
The problem that we're getting to is that a, a great amount of people from our audience are no longer able to come because they're either not here or they don't have money or they've seen you before and now you're coming back for a higher ticket price than you did with the original band. And you might have one guy left in the group or two guys. I mean, hearing the music is great. It's kind of like what people of our generation or type of people that we are and were, it's like, people still go see Tchaikovsky and Beethoven shows and all that. They're not there. So they don't call
There
that
you
a
go.
tribute. They don't
No,
call that a tribute, do they?
that's really interesting, actually.
But I mean, think about it. Ludwig van was, while he was alive, was his own first tribute group because he had to teach a guy to play piano to do his concerts because he couldn't hear anymore. So he had a replacement for him while he was alive. And ever since then, other people have been copying his music and recording it and doing concerts and all the rest of it. But Beethoven was the first tribute act, self-proclaimed. So now you
That's
have
funny.
everybody in the world doing everybody's music, but it's just not quite the same unless you have that guitar player at least, or the singer there, or
Who does
or
Foreigner still have? Because isn't
well,
Foreigner down
I
to one
mean,
member?
all I can say is good for them. I love
Oh
Mick
yeah, I don't.
Jones,
I mean, I'm happy to see people work, but I just
love Bill Carson, and I mean and there's people in that group that were in the group longer than the original members were.
well, that's like
It,
Journey, right? Wasn't that?
Journey
Isn't that
too.
singer?
I
Hasn't he been here
know.
longer than Steve Perry?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's and he's fantastic. So you're still getting the group experience with all that, and the shows and the audiences. I mean, they still come together to make what you go to a concert for. To hear the songs, to see new people watching, having fun, going out, and
Yeah.
I'm glad that the business um, is so supportive, out there from all the people. But I'm just, I wonder how they afford it. How do people go see Bruce Springsteen? How do people go see Taylor Swift? I mean, I'm not denying anybody making anything that they get. Whatever they get, as far as I'm concerned, they worked a long time and they deserve it. But how are people affording all this?
I have
I
no
mean,
idea
and they're
because
going on sale a year in advance.
and selling
Enough.
out immediately, and then you have to buy tickets, through resell outlets, and then pay ridiculous fees, and on and on and on. But you go there, and then you line up. Well, certainly like at a Taylor Swift show, for example, you go there and you line up for an hour and a half for your merch that is in a bag bigger than your suitcase, and it's just I'm with you. I don't know how people afford it. I don't, because it's just, I mean, prices have gotten so silly.
And
Um,
with the radio play formats tightening up more and more than ever, when all you hear is a great act like these ones that we're talking about that are so popular, they're just going to get bigger by default because there's nobody else that they're hearing to get a start with. I mean, how does a young group get off the ground anymore? I mean, even in the 70s when I started doing this, you had an opportunity with at least one station in the market
yeah,
to
there's
get
either a
the
good
music
rock
played.
station or a good alternative station, and then and then you hit the clubs. You'd go out, you'd get in your van, you'd go out and hit the clubs again and again and again and again, and then you have a song that finally clicks at radio, and that's the way it works. But now everything's streamed, so everything's already there, and people just don't really
It's
kind
it's
of
made
people
a
don't pay their dues anymore,
it,
sadly.
it's made I think a little bit too easy for the audience. I think they should still be buying albums, or I mean, but how about this? Who would think that even the automakers had something to do with screwing up the music business? They won't put CD players in the cars. I've got 5,000 CDs. And I got stuff that I want to just grab and go. I want to go listen to this stuff when I go to Hawaii and there's no signal anywhere, and I can't put a CD in. Some of them have the hookup. Most of them now do for your phone, but that means all right. Now let's spend another few hours or days downloading albums.
I
So
think
it's
kids
like,
do it faster than that. I think that's just for the wrong generation for that
oh,
because
I'm an idiot. I don't know how to
yeah,
do it.
no, I'm with
I've
you.
never done it. I've taken a few things off of Apple. That's it. That's it. But I've got all this vinyl and all these CDs, which it's not about I love those particular actual pieces, but I love the fact that I've got this music. And I didn't mind really, except at first when you had to go out and replace your vinyl with CDs. And then vinyl got not so
Or
popular anymore. But
your cassettes with CDs.
and the cassette, well, those were in between. Uh, I still have 1,000 or two cassettes, but I never. And I bought an old Corvette that's got a cassette player in it, so
Really?
I actually pull them out and use them. It's fun
And do you ever play vinyl?
all the time.
You do?
Yeah, yeah, I love vinyl. I
We
love
collect.
I, I
My
love
husband collects
having it.
vinyl.
I like looking at it.
Yeah, he does
Um,
too. I don't care.
And I like the way it sounds. I got a great turntable. It was like $600 or $700. I got a great turntable. You don't need to go crazy on that stuff, but you can't get a cheap one. But you need a solid turntable, and it just sounds so much better.
Yeah,
You
that's what
know,
my
and
husband
it's
does
fun
too.
to put them on.
Yeah, we seem to collect vinyl, and we seem to collect turntables too that are never used. I don't know how or why, because he prefers that. I think maybe we just tend to listen to less music lately, maybe.
Yeah, well, and fortunately, in doing what I'm doing, I'm constantly going back and pulling those things out because you just want as much of the material and the stuff around you, so you're breathing it while you're trying to promote it. Um, and there's been so many of these great records. This is an old list. What wasn't on here was Squeeze and the Psychedelic Furs are coming out, which I think is a fantastic show. And I got Dave Mason and Sean Phillips, both from the '70s, and I love their records. I mean, there's nothing like putting those records on. Alone Together is one of the greatest albums ever made. Um, anyway,
Yeah, that's
anyway,
fun. Okay, so I have a couple of quiz questions for you before I let you go because we're
is,
going to run out of time soon.
is it a
But
lightning round?
what?
Is
Yeah.
it a lightning round?
But we have to do a part two because this has
Okay,
been so fun talking to you, and it's super interesting. Okay,
anytime.
so here's a question for you. If okay, well, first, what's your favorite drink? It could either be alcohol or non-alcohol.
Other than water, I've been partial to grape Gatorade lately. Zero.
Is that right?
Um, the stuff. Uh,
And do you get energy from that?
I don't know, but it quenches my thirst, and then later in the day, it goes wonderfully with Tito's.
Funny. Um, okay, so if you could only listen to one song ever, what would it be? But since you're such a muso, you can do two. Do two.
Well, I'll tell you what. When I want to wake up uh, or play something to somebody that they often, I find I'm very surprised they don't know that often. But I like Fairies Wear Boots a lot.
You do?
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
Oh,
That
funny.
stuff from that record just attract me here, and anything by Jeff Beck.
Oh no,
Uh,
go back.
I love Jeff. We were really really good friends, and I miss him terribly.
I bet.
But I mean, I never get tired of Freeway Jam. It's one of the great tracks. A lot of his, Superstition, uh, and the last couple records he made, the one with Depp was great. But Jeff was always been so high on my list from the very beginning. I never even knew the story about the New Yardbirds for years and years, and how him and Jimmy were going to start Led Zeppelin. I mean, I didn't know that story forever. He told me, and going through the whole thing, it took him an hour. But he had this terrible accident, and he got sidelined for a few years. But he was really one of my all time favorites.
Okay, before I let you go, tell us your Lollapalooza story.
Well, um, in the early days of baby bands, Jane's Addiction was a baby band. So I got a show with them on the west side of Phoenix in a place I can't even remember the name of it because I think it was the only show I did there. The dressing room was painted black and it had a light bulb hanging from the ceiling on a rope. That was the lighting for the dressing room. No bathroom, of
And
course.
probably the lighting for the venue wasn't much better.
There's maybe 4 or 5 more. But the show is fantastic. They were fantastic. I met them before the show, and I mean, we're not that different in age, but back around 19, I guess it would have been about 87, 88, 89 in there, because the first Lollapalooza was 91. So it must have been 89 or 90. So let me think. So I was 35. And maybe, and those guys who were really on a fast track, if you know what I mean. I mean, those guys were out of control in every way, shape, and form, starting with their music, but they were really, really nice people. And I got to be friendly with Perry. So a couple of months later, it seemed like just a couple of months later, we did the Macy Amphitheater, which is a 4,000 seat GA place, and that sold out. And then within 1 year, I did 3 shows with Jane's. The third one being the last show I did at the ASU Activity Center, which is the university's basketball arena, and we sold that out. The setup was for about 8 or 9,000. So over that time, within 1 year, we got to be pretty close, and really look forward to seeing each other. And after shows, we're hanging out and carrying on, and staying up late and everything. So another night, I can't remember where the show was. I think it was, we may have done a show out at the amphitheater, but we were together at the Point Resort, and we were sitting up, and it's probably 1 or 2 in the morning, and he starts laying out this thing for me about what he wants to do. Basically he described Lollapalooza. He had this grand vision, great idea, arts and crafts, buying stuff other than dumb t-shirts, and having all different kinds of bands. And he couldn't come up with a name. The one he had, and he says, I know this is stupid. He said Jamboree. And I said, well, boring. It's like Boy Scouts. That's what I think of, or Cub Scouts. And one thing led, and the word just, it kind of came out at the same time together. It's like you're looking for how do you say like a chocolate and vanilla swirl? I mean, what's going to make this? And Laalapalooza just came out. He goes, that's it. That's it. And it was, I mean, it came out of a jam session where 2 guys who were definitely drinking and enjoying the night and our company together. It was just that
Just
time.
happened. Just happened.
It was a lot of fun remembering that, and to think that's now over 30 years ago is insane.
Wow. Yeah, really insane. And the best thing about, in my opinion, about Lollapalooza having been created, especially when it was created, is that it taught the artists to leave their egos at the door. And everybody just went on and played. And it almost didn't even matter where you were on the bill.
It definitely gave a different kind of a mindset to everybody for that. And, like I say, I mean, it worked really well in a number of cities. Out here, it was always difficult because they always opened the tour here, and it was in the middle of June. And so like daytime, it could be 110 or 15 degrees. And I think that was definitely part of why we didn't do. I mean, we did in numbers. I mean, they were in the thousands, tens of thousands, but other cities did much better. But when they took that break and came back, I gotta say,
Bigger than ever.
The thing they did with Chicago every year now is genius.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Brilliant.
It's just so huge, and it's become like a benchmark for so many other tours. And it truly was one of the things I think that bridged people who weren't so familiar with going to concerts to going to this one.
Absolutely.
It really helped over the last 10, 15 years propel, the popularity of these mass events.
Yeah.
And it seems like everybody, really enjoys it there. I'm from Chicago, so I've been back there for a couple of them, and it's a blast.
Yeah.
I'm not so terribly fond of stadium shows unless I'm behind the wheel and doing it myself.
Right.
But it's difficult for me to to go to one of those, but I do appreciate all the work and the money that
Yeah.
these people pour into these incredible
Yeah.
productions. I mean, you got to say one thing, for all the money it costs, if they didn't get all that money, they wouldn't be able to put together some of
No.
these shows that are just so
No.
great and
Yeah.
over the top. It's like going to a circus
Yeah.
with music,
Yeah.
and I'm not saying it ain't worth it, but God bless everybody that goes and supports these things, because it's so great to see, while I'm still doing this, that concerts are so important and so, such a big thing for people to be a part of.
Hmm.
And I know the musicians love it. I mean, it's great.
So on that note, we'll say goodbye. And but would you do it? Will you do it again with me?
You know, I want to be one of the girls any chance I get.
I love it. I love it. You're so fun, Danny. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you in Ojai. Hopefully, I'm going to text her now and say we need it. We need a party.
And you should put down my dzplive.com address, so that when you're thinking about, I want to go to a concert or something like that, put that on your thing there, because I'm in and out of Vegas all the time.
Well, let me know. Well, you know how to get me, so let me know.
Okay,
Okay, cool. Thank you.
you got it.
Bye.
Peace
Thank
out.
you, everybody. Thanks so much for tuning in today. And be sure to follow Gabbing with Girlfriends on here so you never miss an episode. You can also find us on social media for more fun and in-depth conversations. Thank you.